This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando.
Hello folks, welcome to Dice Commando. Andrew with you here as always, talking Star Wars Legion today because this past Friday, Fantasy Flight Games released the full spoiler articles for both Lando and Agent Kallus. Agent Kallus, of course, being the one that speaks to me specifically because, at least I believe, he can fit right into my current Imperial list. So today we're talking Agent Kallus Commander expansion for Star Wars Legion. Hey guys, thanks for joining me again today. I'm very excited about today's conversation, very excited to see all this stuff for Agent Kallus. It's always great when we see the articles like this because, not only is it giving us the spoilers for stuff that we've been waiting on for, in many cases, a very long time, but we also get that oh so important piece of information down at the bottom, which is the release date. Now granted, we already kind of knew based on various spoilers and discussions out there when these guys were coming. And of course, then the caveat there is, of course, that we know the ports are jammed. We know people can't, there's shipping problems. So we'll see if these actually show up on time. Based on everything going on, I'd be very surprised if they did. But fingers crossed. So but with that said, once we get into this, I'm going to be totally focused and just blowing it. So I want to remind everyone right now of the giveaway we have going on right now. Thanks to our friends over at Gongai Games. They have put up an OP kit or portions of an OP kit for us to give away to our viewers. So if you are interested in getting in on that, all you have to do is like, subscribe, be a public subscriber, and then leave a comment in one of the Legion videos through the month of February, and you become eligible for one of those sets of character full arts. And thanks to our friends at Gongai Game, my LGS, and remember you can use code Commando10 at checkout when you're there for 10% off any purchase that you make at that store. So it's something that they do for our viewers. So thanks again to Gongai. All right, so let's go ahead and really get into this on Kallus. Now, I do want to kind of stress that I'm excited about him because I think he's going to fit into my Imperial skirmish list. Specifically because he's 90 point. He's really cheap, right? That's like Rex level cheap. I'm very excited about that. So just keep in mind that while I will be doing, a kind of a review of him, and I'll be going through him in a full context, know where my heart lies, right? So when I'm coming at things, I of course have a bias and an angle on that, right? So just keep that in mind as we go through this, right? And then we can't forget, look at that art, or not the art. Look at the figure, right? He's very cool looking figure. That I think is what popped to me first. Also the fact that he has the weapon thing, which we'll talk about. But so I think probably once again, like I did with Darth Maul, I think probably the guy there in the middle, Pain's the one I like. I just like with the helmet. I think it looks a lot cooler. But if you're a purist and you like the big old mutton chops, go with that. And of course you can have staff or or his gun, right? Which of course is it's the same thing, but it's a different configuration. But I like the big staff because I've been knowing in my heart of hearts Zeb's coming, and we're gonna get them doing their thing, right? So. Very, very, very cool. Great looking figure there. I'm very excited to get that one and paint it up. All right, so before we get into all of this, for those of you who may be new to the game, which I know that a lot of people watching this are, I want to remind everyone of what reconfigure and recover, and very conveniently, it's actually, it's just by chance, right? But conveniently, they're in the same spot on page 68 in the rules. So recover, we'll do that first. Unit can recover by performing a recover action. When it does that, basically it readies everything attached to it. You remove any number of suppression tokens that you choose, right? And any number of its exhausted upgrade cards you can ready. When you recover, you can also reconfigure, right? So reconfigure keyword allows a dual-sided upgrade card, right? Kallus has one, of course. Jyn Cassian, each of them have one, and so on. You can also change that, right? So let's just keep those rules in mind that if you do the recover action or something will let you recover, you can remove suppression, very important. You can flip your exhausted cards, maybe also very important, maybe, right? Not necessarily here, but it may be for you. and you can also reconfigure a weapon if that is something that you have. Okay. And then, of course, let's remember, right? I get it, we all know, but let's just go through it so it's clear, right? Suppression. The way this works is if you have suppression tokens equal to your courage value, you are suppressed and you lose an action, right? You get one less action for that round, right? Which is a big deal. Now you get some benefits from that, of course. Being suppressed gives you benefits in terms of, additional tokens. But keep in mind that you do lose that action. Now, what the very, very, very bad thing is, if you ever have suppression tokens on you equal to double your courage, you panic and you run the heck away, right? So you don't do anything for that for as long as you are panicked. You just do one standard move towards the closest edge of the battlefield, running away. Okay, so these will become relevant to the discussion going forward. So just wanted to make sure we touched on that. All right, so looking at his upgrade card, looking at his unit card, Agent Kallus is 90 points. That is very, very, very attractive, right? Like I mentioned, that is Rex level cheap, which makes him, I think, a great candidate for being a skirmish commander. Okay. Now, he does have contingencies too. I do have to wonder how contingencies will end up playing out. I think that's something we're just going to have to see how it goes. I also kind of wonder, what portion of his point cost is actually assigned to, he's obviously, everything he has on there feeds into his cost somehow. And I kind of wonder, what portion of that contingencies adds, right? And where my head is at on that is, if it turns out that, the contingencies thing isn't all that useful in competitive play, we could potentially see let's just say contingency 2 is worth 5 bill of points, right? If it ends up not being that good of a thing, we could potentially in the future see him become cheaper, right, in a balance. Again, that would be way down the line, and just speculating there. I don't know, maybe contingencies is really good and then he stays where he is. I don't know. Right, but we'll just have to keep an eye on that as it goes, keep in the back of our head. Okay, he also has Cunning, which is really cool. So basically, if you tie for priority, you can play it as if it had one fewer pip, so you win if you tie for priority. Flawed, he does have a flaw. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Sharpshooter 1, and then Sexy Tactical 1. After you perform a standard move, just gain an aim token. Okay, so for melee combat, he has 2 reds. And his gun is black, white with pierce at range 1 to 2. Very good. Now, the one thing that should pop to you on this card is that he's 6'2", right? So, usually you see a 6'3", but he's 6'2". He does have surge to crit on attack. He has nothing for defense, but he's rolling that super sexy red defend die, right? All right, so with the pierce keyword there, that's very interesting. Now, when we first saw Kallus, he was he's got the bow staff, right? Let's not ignore it. He's got the bow staff, which can be a rifle or, of course, the melee combat weapon. So what you're getting here is an additional red die, right, in both of these cases. Obviously, you can reconfigure it. And, this is a pretty neat thing, right? So Kallus now just stick with me, right? It's a pretty neat thing in concept, right? He can be shooting, and then if he has to, you can reconfigure, move into melee, do whatever you need to do. It makes them very versatile. All right, so I really like the concept of this weapon. The problem is it's 25 points, right? And again, I'll go back and pull up his character card. Remember, at range 1 to 2, it's black, white with pierce. And with this, it's range 1 to 3, so you get an extra red die. But you have lethal. So lethal, while attacking, you can spend an aim token to gain pierce. So you actually lose pierce. Now, granted, you get that aim token by moving, so maybe it's the same. But yeah, it's interesting. So for 25 points, I don't know. What I'm thinking is specifically, again, like I said, my heart here is in skirmish. I don't think the 25 points is worth it. Certainly not in skirmish. That's a lot of points in skirmish. Maybe when you have more in a larger army. But I personally think that probably you can find a better use for those 25 points. So I think in terms of the weapon, while I want to be very clear, especially as we go through talking about his command cards, I think the weapon thing's really cool and kind of how he plays and gives him it's a lot of versatility in concept. Again, he can kind of charge in, get that aim token, start mixing it up. But I just don't think it's worth the points, especially in a tight list like in skirmish, something like that. So that's a bummer because I think it's a really cool concept. I just don't think that functionally it's gonna work, right? All right, so let's go over to his command cards, which we are showing across the screen now. And the first one that pops up to me as being a very, very interesting card, I'll even throw in a couple more berries on there, is ISB Investigation. So declare a number and choose an opponent. That opponent sets aside face up any command cards in their hand that have a number of pips equal to the declared number. That opponent returns those command cards to their hand after they select a command card in the subsequent round. So in essence, and then this, of course, Agent Kallus in 1 unit, but in essence, this just blanks the card that you want to blank for the next round. I think there's a lot of skill. I think this is a card that's going to speak to players who know the game really, really, really well. This is going to be like a high skill cap card, I think, because it'll let you avoid that wrong thing at the right time. Right thing at the wrong time, wrong thing at the right time. Either way, right? You guys know what I'm saying. This is a very high skill cap level card that I think a lot of people are going to use. And now remember, you of course have your contingency. So this kind of speaks to me as like being a perfect contingency card. Like if you're playing, the example they use is Luke Skywalker for Son of Skywalker, which is just a brutal card. That's the example they use. But in that vein, if they're playing somebody who they're counting on a very specific card, Grievous has some that I try to keep away from him at the wrong time, the right time, whatever. That I think that's the way to play this. So these skill cap cards I know speak to a lot of the more competitive players and and as well it should. I think that's the design here, and I think that's the space. All right. Next we have Face Me. Agent Kallus gains Agile 1 and Block. During Kallus's activation, he may perform a free recover action. Right. So I said that was going to be relevant. Enemy units engaged with him cannot withdraw. That's pretty cool. This is basically what it is, right? So during his activation, perform a free recover action. So Face Me is basically his ability. So if he has a staff on him, right, he can charge into battle, flip from his gun to his staff, and then hit, right? That's the very fundamentalness of this card. Now, recover, of course, has other importance in terms of removing suppression tokens and stuff like that, right? Okay, and now we have, this one's really cool. Ruthless Tactics. This is Agent Kallus plus 2 units. After an enemy unit defends against a ranged attack, it gains an observation token or 2 observation tokens if it has a number of suppression tokens equal to or exceeding its courage value. During Agent Kallus's activation, he may perform a free recover action. So there we see it again. So what this is, so remember observation tokens, we first saw them in Maul. They're basically like a reverse aim token, right? For better or worse. What they do is they go on the unit being shot at, and then when you're shooting at them, you can bust the observation token to basically reroll dice, not basically to reroll dice, right? So like I said, it's kind of, think of it right as kind of like a reverse aim token. So what this is basically, like this Ruthless Tactics, it should basically just be called Focus Fire. It's this turn, we are going to eliminate this unit from the board at all costs, right? That's basically what it is. So in this, and that's, again, it's Agent Kallus plus 2 units, which is pretty cool. Like, so say you have information with, I don't know, in my case, 2 units of shores, everybody just goes, right, to whomever you need to wipe off the board, right? And again, he gets that free recover action. All right, but now we get to the downside of him, which is his flaw card, Developing Sympathies, right? Of course, spoiler alert, right? He flips sides during the middle of Rebels because he starts to realize there are better things out there in the universe than just being this mean old Imperial, right? So it works just like Anakin's flaw does, right? It's a flaw card. You may play this card at the start of the command phase if there's a wounded Agent Kallus. At the end of that, enemy Agent Kallus is right. So your Kallus, right? So if your Kallus is wounded, they can just play that. At the end of Kallus's activation, if he performed an attack, he gains 4 suppression tokens. Right, so this on the surface, you're like, whoa, 4 suppression tokens. Remember, this guy has courage 2, which means he would immediately panic going into the next round, barring other stuff happening, right? But point is, it puts him in panic range, and it also, at the very least, is not great. However, put this in perspective. You may play this card at the start of the command phase if Kallus is wounded. At the end of that activation, if he performed an attack, he gains 4 suppression tokens. So, if you have Agent Kallus on the board and they play this on you, you could just not attack, right? So, yes, that is a good thing for them too, to stop you from attacking at the right time. It completely is, don't get me wrong. But you can play around it. Or, if it's super crucial that you need to eliminate whoever you do from the board or whatever, Kallus is in the right position for his kill shot, whatever it may be, you can still attack, you still get your activation, and at the end of your activation, you get the suppression tokens. So all in all, like, this flaw is not as bad. Like, you read this and you're like, oh, that's a big deal. And, like, it is, but it's not, right? I'm just saying the first impression I had, at least, when I read it, was like, whoa, that's a big deal, but it's not. And then it's not that it's not. It's just, it's not as bad as it initially sounds, I guess is my point. And again, we go back to his command cards, right? In many cases, well, 2 of them, allow him to recover, right? And he gets a free recover, right? So it doesn't cost you anything on your turn. So you have ways to intelligently get around this. I can see the lines of play, so I think with minimal amount of practice, probably anybody can figure out how to make this flaw not the completely worst thing that they've ever seen, right? So my takeaway, let's go ahead and put Kallus back on, his cards back on the screen. I'm really, really, really excited about this guy. I can't wait to put him in my army. Like I said, he's likely going to be flying around at 90 points with just maybe 1 or 2 other things on him. He will be replacing probably like a General Veers, right? That's who I see him replacing, because I can find 10 points pretty easy. Now, if I was playing him with his bow staff, I wouldn't be able to find 35 points as easy, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from with the bow staff. So I'll be very interested to see when I get him in hand, how he plays out, how he fits in. So that's pretty much my take on him. Like I said, obviously you can feel that I'm excited about him. Am I missing anything on the flaw card? Like, I don't think it's necessarily all that bad. For what it is, but maybe I'm missing something, right? I don't have as much experience as a lot of you guys out there, so hey, let me know in the comments. Am I missing anything? Do you agree? Do you disagree? How about his bow staff? Like, is it that cool that we should just play with it? I mean, heck, this is Star Wars Legion. We're here to play a game. If you want to play him with his bow staff, you play him with his bow staff. I just don't think I can find the points worth it. So anyway, that's my take on Kallus. Thank you guys very, very much for continuing to join me. Yeah, and don't forget about that giveaway. And if nothing else, guys, go Commando.